You clicked this for a reason, and it wasn't random.
Not at all.
There was an itch in your brain, a question mark, a sense that there was something here you needed to know, and you had to get the answer.
And we are going to tell you exactly what that is. But maybe, more importantly, we're going to show you how that same little itch is kind of running your life.
It really is, and by the end of this episode, you'll realize how often you're being controlled by it, every day, in ways you don't even notice. It's a bit scary, actually, when you see it.
It's wild, but stick with us because understanding this mechanism is the first step to, taking back the controls. Okay, so let's just dive right in. The thing we're talking about, this invisible force, it's called the curiosity gap.
The curiosity gap sounds like a clothing store at the mall for inquisitive toddlers.
Totally. But it's much simpler and way more powerful. The psychologist who really defined it, a guy named George Lowenstein, he basically said curiosity is simply the gap between what you know and what you want to know.
Right, so it's not just not knowing something, it's being made aware that you don't know it. That's the key.
Exactly. That awareness creates a kind of like a mental deprivation, an itch that you desperately need to scratch. It's like an information-shaped hole in your brain, and you feel this urgent compulsion to fill it.
So, the classic internet headline, "You won't believe what happened next."
That's the perfect example. That phrase literally points a giant flashing arrow at a piece of information you're missing. It screams, hey, there's a gap in your knowledge right here. And your brain just goes, wait, what? I gotta know.
Yeah, that compulsion. And this is what content creators call an open loop, right? You're opening a story, you're starting a pattern, but you don't close it yet.
You're creating that gap on purpose. Think about a movie trailer that shows you the setup but not the payoff, or a friend saying, oh my God, remind me to tell you something later. Your brain it can't let it go. It's like a computer running a background process it can't shut down.
That's the worst. Don't do that to your friends, people. It's cruel, it's a violation of social norms.
It's psychological warfare, but it works because it's so fundamental to how we're wired.
And there's a deep evolutionary reason for that, for why we can't ignore it. It's not a modern flaw, it's an ancient feature.
Okay, getting nerdy. I love it. Tell us, Professor.
Well, think about our ancestors on the savannah, right? If they heard a rustle in the bushes, that uncertainty, that gap in knowledge, it wasn't just, annoying. It was a potential threat. Is that the wind or a saber-toothed tiger?
Right, not knowing could literally get you killed, so you have to find out.
Exactly. So our brains evolved to see uncertainty as a threat. It demands closure. It means to fill that gap to make sure the world is safe and predictable. It's a survival mechanism it's been hijacked in the modern world.
Hijacked by like celebrity gossip and YouTube video titles?
Hijacked by everything. And when we feel that anticipation, that need to know, our brain is actually releasing dopamine.
Dopamine, the feel-good reward chemical.
Yep, but here's the crazy part, the real twist. The biggest dopamine hit doesn't come from getting the answer. It comes from the anticipation of the answer. It's the chase, not the catch. The seeking is what gets rewarded.
That makes so much sense. That's why almost knowing is so much more addictive than just knowing. It's the feeling right before you click, the moment before the reveal, the seconds before the season finale's cliffhanger is resolved. That's the peak.
That's the hook. Your brain is getting rewarded for seeking, not for finding, which, creates a pretty powerful, sometimes endless loop.
Which brings us to, well, the entire internet.
The entire internet is built on this. I mean, let's break down how viral content uses this. It's a formula.
Okay, yeah, let's start with titles, YouTube titles.
Okay, you see things like, everyone missed this one detail. What does that do? It instantly creates a gap. It tells you there's a secret and you're not in on it yet.
Or the negative ones, like, don't click this video.
Right, reverse psychology. It implies there's a reason you shouldn't, which makes you desperate to know that reason. What are they hiding? Another gap.
And thumbnails, they're like the visual version of this. The big red circle, the arrow pointing at something you can't quite make out, the shocked face.
The shocked face is a huge one. It's a social cue. It tells our brain this person has information that is surprising and you don't have it yet. It's all designed to make you feel like you're one click away from a revelation.
And then inside the content itself, you have cliffhangers. Not just at the end of a series, but like at the end of a TikTok, the wait for it or watch until the end captions.
Top creators are masters of structuring curiosity. They'll start with a question, promise an answer, then spend the whole video giving you related information, but they withhold that final piece of the puzzle until the very end. They keep that loop open as long as possible to maximize watch time.
And once you start seeing that pattern, everyone missed this. This one trick changed my life. The secret they don't want you to know. You realize it's all the same formula, just repackaged.
And it works. It works so well.
Which is fine for content, but let's talk about some other real-life examples where this gets a little more intense, because this isn't just about YouTube.
No, not at all. The most obvious one is social media scrolling. The infinite scroll itself is a curiosity engine.
Oh, 100%. Every flick of your thumb is a gamble. What will the next post be? It might be boring, but it might be amazing. That gap between knowing and not knowing is what keeps you pulling the slot machine lever.
Exactly. It's a slot machine of information. And then you've got Netflix binge watching. The next episode autoplay feature is pure weaponized curiosity.
Oh man, the cliffhanger ending of an episode creates this massive curiosity gap. And Netflix doesn't even give your logical brain time to step in and say, hey, it's 2 a.m., maybe go to sleep. The countdown starts, and closing that gap feels more urgent than sleeping.
Totally. What about just gossip, unfinished stories? Someone tells you half a juicy story and gets interrupted, you will hunt them down later to get the rest of it.
Because it's an open loop in your brain. It feels unresolved, unsettling. Even news headlines do this constantly. They use phrases like, "this changes everything," or "an inside look at the scandal."
This changes everything implies your current knowledge is incomplete or wrong. It creates a gap between your understanding of the world and a supposedly new understanding. You have to click to close that gap and update your mental model. It's an incredibly powerful tool.
It's everywhere. And it even plays a huge role in our personal lives, in attraction and mystery.
Right, this is a fascinating turn. Let's go there. Why do mysterious people often feel more attractive?
Well, it's the curiosity gap. Someone who is an open book, who overshares everything on the first date, there's no gap. You know everything. There's nothing for your brain to work on.
But someone who is a bit more reserved, who doesn't give everything away, they create intrigue. There are gaps. What are they thinking? What's their story? Your brain wants to fill in those blanks.
And you start dedicating mental real estate to them. You think about them more because you're trying to solve the puzzle. Silence can be an incredible psychological tool for this reason. A pause in conversation makes people lean in, desperate to know what comes next.
There's that great quote. I think it's the less people know, the more they imagine. When you create a gap, you're not just making people curious, you're inviting them to co-create the narrative in their own minds. They fill the space you leave with their own imagination, which is often more compelling than the truth.
That's really powerful. And it leads us to the dark side of this because that same mechanism, inviting people to fill in the blanks, can be used for some pretty serious manipulation.
Yeah, this is the high retention section, folks. This is the stuff that can be used against you. Obvious manipulation is clickbait. We've talked about that. But it's more than just wasting your time. It's about emotional control.
How so?
Well, by creating a curiosity gap around something that triggers fear or outrage or anxiety, manipulators can steer your emotional state. They create an information vacuum and then fill it with the narrative they want you to believe. Think about conspiracy theories. They thrive on gaps in official stories.
Right. They present an unanswered question, an anomaly, and because the brain hates that uncertainty, it's more willing to accept a sensational answer than no answer at all.
Precisely. People exploit curiosity for power, and cults and abusive relationships and high-pressure sales. They strategically withhold information to keep you off balance, to keep you seeking their approval, to keep you hooked.
And that explains why you can feel hooked on something even when you know the content is low value. That late night scrolling through some drama you don't even care about, you're not hooked on the content, you're hooked on the closing of loops. Your brain just wants the satisfaction of filling the gap even if the information itself is garbage.
It's a biological imperative being exploited for clicks and control.
Okay, so that's heavy. But this is the behavior code. We can't leave people there. How do we use this? How do we make it actionable, both to defend against it and maybe use it for good?
Okay, for content creators listening, the lesson is clear. Open loops at the beginning of your content. Pose a question, present a problem, state a paradox. Then spend your time building towards the answer. Strategic withholding is key. Don't give it all away up front.
And for life, like in your actual day-to-day interactions?
In communication, it means don't lead with the boring conclusion. Start with the why, start with the puzzle. Instead of saying, here are the quarterly numbers, you could say, we found something really unexpected in the numbers this quarter. You create a gap, you get buy-in.
And for your personal brand, or even just in social situations, it goes back to what we said about mystery. Don't be afraid to be concise. Don't feel the need to fill every silence. Leaving a little bit unsaid makes you more interesting than spelling everything out.
But this all comes down to the big question, the line between ethical and manipulative use. The way I see it, it's about the payoff. If you create a huge curiosity gap and then provide a valuable, satisfying answer, that's ethical. You're using a tool to frame valuable information.
Right, but if you create a huge gap just to lead to a disappointing, low value, or misleading payoff, that's clickbait. That's manipulation. You're exploiting a cognitive bias for your own gain without delivering on the promise.
And that brings us full circle, back to the beginning.
Closing the loop.
We told you clicked for a reason, that there was an itch. Now you know why you clicked. It was a curiosity gap we opened in our title and in those first few seconds. We told you that by the end, you'd realize how you're being controlled.
And now you do. You see the mechanism in your social feeds, in your Netflix queue, in the headlines you read. You see the pattern.
And here's the final piece of the puzzle, the most important part. The moment you understand curiosity, the moment you can spot the gap being opened, you stop being controlled by it. You can choose whether or not to scratch the itch.
You get your power back, which is what we're all about here.
Exactly. And if you want to keep gaining that power back, well, you should probably subscribe. Because trust us, there's more you don't know yet.